Welcome to a bonus episode of Portugal the Simple Life, where we take a look back to some of our favorite interviews over the last 2 years. Enjoy, in chronological order, some moments, some banter, some stories, and characters that show Portugal is just a funny old country.
Sure, like idioms. There's an idiom that I find very interesting. I actually did a post on it. It's in Portuguese, it's peixe não puxa carroça, for example.
Okay, say it slowly. Peixe?
Okay. Peixe não puxa carroça.
Okay.
So I don't know if you understood what I said, but so the idea is a fish. It's so interesting. We have a lot of idioms with fish, with different types.
That's not surprising at all.
That's not surprising, right? And so that one means fish doesn't pull, this is literal, doesn't pull or don't pull wagons. So the idea is if you have fish for lunch, you're not going to have a lot of energy in the afternoon because fish does not give you a lot of energy.
Is that what it means?
Yes. So if you eat fish and you're hungry and you say, I'm already hungry, people might tell you, peixe não puxa carroça, if they know that you ate fish, for example.
Okay. One of the ones that I know is feito ao bife.
Feito ao bife.
Okay. So what is that? What does that mean? Explain.
So feito ao bife is more like you're screwed in that idea that you're in trouble. Faz feito ao bife. So you could even say that to let's say if your kids are doing something, you're going to get in trouble. Faz feito ao bife. So something's bad's going to happen. Yeah. Which beef is steak in Portuguese.
Yeah. So it's almost like you're down to the meat. Is the
yes,
type
exactly.
of idea. Oh,
yeah.
Great. So normally we would talk about food, but we've done that a lot lately. So we've got opened up here on this beautiful blog about Portugal or Spain. Let me just settle a few things, and I'll do it. I don't mind getting into trouble for what I'm about to say. I'm biased. Fado is better than flamenco. Presunto is better than jamon. Portuguese wine is much better than Spanish wine. And petiscos are better than tapas. I will take the hit. I don't mind.
I need to be careful because, I often go to Spain. So just in case they catch me there at the border, but
exactly. So I'll take the hit for it.
Yeah, petisco better than tapas. Yeah, by a long shot, by a long mile. So that one I'm prepared to take a risk with. And I have my personal opinion. Chorizo is better than chorizo. I mean, who says chorizo?
Exactly.
But this banter that goes on with the Spanish is, they are cousins. They call us the hermanos. When they beat us, they don't really refer to us as the hermanos. But when we beat them, then hermanos. But there you go.
Well, then there's a really obvious one. Who are the European champions of football? Let's just move on. Exactly. Okay.
Let's see.
And another amazing encounter was with a Portuguese lady called Teresa, and I was looking for hotels to recommend to future clients. And one day I rocked up at her hotel and rang the bell outside, and nothing happened for about a quarter of an hour. So I rang again. And eventually, this woman came to flung the door open, and said, "Hello, I'm Teresa. I've just been eating sardines," and our friendship began immediately. And she's my best Portuguese friend up there in the region.
One of the other perceptions, certainly for me, to come out of this is that one of the reasons why the Portuguese have accepted lockdown so effectively and managed the pandemic efficiently is because they've been set a wonderful example by their president, Marcelo Rebelo de Sousa. Now, Marcelo is an extremely humble and very kind man. He's very much known as a man of the people. And I think, Dylan, this is encapsulated by a photograph that went viral very recently in Portugal, whereby the Portuguese president, Marcelo, was queuing in his flip-flops and his T-shirt and his shorts in a Portuguese supermarket with his little wire basket. He was queuing at the checkout with no protection officers, no entourage whatsoever. He had his pandemic mask on and his little gloves. And he was standing there with everybody else in the queue in the supermarket. And he was entirely anonymous. The trouble was that he was snapped on her phone by a lady in a queue next to him at the supermarket. Everybody else was ignoring him. You know, because of the mask, you couldn't actually see it was Marcelo, but it was fairly clear from his posture and everything. He's a recognizable figure. Anyway, the lady's photograph of Marcelo in the queue went viral. And it then made the headlines in the Sunday newspapers. And this encapsulates the style of the current president of the Portuguese Republic, which is a man of the people.
It is very rural. I remember one day I was sat in the garden and I could hear this jingling and jangling, and it almost sounded like Father Christmas was coming with his reindeer. And I went to the front of the property, and there's a huge herd of sheep just wandering down the street in front of me, and the farmer's just wandering along, and, you know, he gives me a wave. And it was one of those, you know, when you rub your eyes and you're like, oh, am I actually seeing this? Yeah. So there's never a dull moment. And then obviously I think the thing that the village is most famous for is the restaurant, Omero. Am I pronouncing it right? Omeru. As I said, from the outside, it looks like a tiny little place. In the morning, they bake the fresh bread and they make cakes, and you can have a coffee or a little beer. But then you go into the side room, which is the restaurant side, and it is always buzzing. I've never not seen it busy in there. And I think a lot of people travel from quite far away to go to this restaurant because the food is so good. And they're so welcoming in there. I took my brother and his fiance over last year when they came to stay. I didn't think that you'd need to book because I didn't think it was that kind of place. And we walked in and it was jam packed. But they were like, "No, don't worry. We'll still find you a seat." And they managed to, you know, find us a little table, and had probably one of the best gin and tonics I've ever had in my life. And my brother sampled their own beer, which they make, and he's a big kind of craft beer fan, and he couldn't believe the beer and the quality of the food.
It's good.
It's very good.
Well, now you know that people need to be careful about underestimating our little restaurant. You have to book. I mean, you know, it's not just one of those places you can just walk in and go, "Hey, give me a table." No. But I've got a photo on my Instagram of exactly what you're talking about with the sheep. I mean, look at that.
Yeah, that was literally.
I mean, that's walking past where the house.
Literally my front gate. Yeah.
I normally tell a story. It's during the World Cup in 2007. Portuguese rugby team. They had the tallest. We had the tallest player, which was my brother. The smallest one, our vice captain Luís Pissarra. The fattest guy in the World Cup, Rui Cordeiro. And also the tiniest one. So Portugal had everything and still managed to make some important things. So
okay, hold on. So I didn't know that. So the Portuguese team had the tallest, the shortest, the fattest,
and the thinnest, and the thinnest one. Yeah.
And the thinnest one.
Yeah, we had everything.
Amazing, amazing. Not the fastest, because Portuguese, we're not known for running.
Yeah, we had some fast guys, but not the fastest. That's difficult.
Yeah, there's I've had a Portuguese teacher on the show, and we spoke about saudades, and there's no literal translation, which for me is just amazing that there's a word where there's no literal translation in English. I think that's super cool.
It's funny, and I sometimes still use it, and there are lots of words that I use the Portuguese instead of the English, still, like mais ou menos. Or for my kids, if I say to them "queres água," or I say, you know, they don't even know what sweet corn is called in English because they call it milho all the time. And I don't know why, but there are a few words that just seem to sound better in Portuguese that I still use all the time.
Let's do a couple of things. I'll give you a Portuguese word, and you tell me what it is in English.
Okay, I'm ready. I'm scared.
Right, I'm gonna start easily. Pau.
You could have warned me that you were going to do this.
I could have, but then it wouldn't have been as much fun.
Oh.
Pau.
Pound bread.
Vinho.
Wine.
Why do you like? Obviously. Okay. Let's see.
It's going to be a hard one now.
Moelas.
Moelas.
It's an unfair one because as a vegan, you wouldn't know what these things are because you probably
kind of
never
seafood.
had them before. Is it gizzards? It's the gizzards.
Yeah, that's okay. One to avoid for me.
Okay. Let's see. Chapéu de Sol.
Chapéu de Sol is an umbrella.
Wonderful. Okay.
Is that right?
It is.
That's right. Right. Chapéu is a hat, isn't it?
Chapéu is a hat, and Chapéu de Sol is an umbrella. Exactly.
An umbrella. Oh, I got it right. Okay, good.
Yeah. Okay. Very good. Let's see.
Or a parasol, rather, isn't it?
Yeah.
Than an umbrella. Like a beach
barco.
Boat.
You're too good at this. I'm not even going to.
I'm surprised it's all in there, right at the back of my mind somewhere.
Onda.
Wave.
Wonderful. Yeah. Okay. So you got it. So Donna Diolinda would be very, very happy with
me. And you know what? She'd also be proud of me, because my daughter's 6, and so she's starting to lose her baby teeth. And every time she loses a tooth, I read her the story of the Fada dos Dentes, the tooth fairy, in Portuguese. And so we always read that. We read quite a few Portuguese books, and sometimes I'm not quite sure what some of the words are, but I get the gist of it. Like we've got the Gruffalo in Portuguese, o Gruffalão, e a filha do Gruffalão as well, the Gruffalo's child. And so we do read I try to give the kids a little bit of exposure to Portuguese, although my Portuguese is not that great.
I beg to differ. It's much better than Johnny's.
Well, that's not difficult.
That's not difficult.
I mean, you'll just be welcomed into these extraordinary communities of people. And before you knew it, everybody had had a drink and we're having a bit of a dance, and it's all kind of funny. There were some fishermen in Ericeira, and we got awfully worried because one of them was sort of saying the thing that was like chaka, 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 chaka. And we suddenly worried that it was something incredibly rude in Portuguese. So we had to ask various Portuguese friends, he's not saying something rude before we broadcast this to 80 million people around the world. And he said, no, he's just having a bit of a laugh. I've still got his fisherman's cap. He said, no, you must have my cap because with your head, you're going to get sunburned. So I have this, I mean, it still smells of fish. This little seaman's cap that I took away, and we took his hands. I mean, I got little lily-livered typing hands. You know, these big seaman's hands. You know, sort of each finger was like a big sausage, and they just come on in. You're part of the gang. Oh, we're going to have lots of fun. Oh, it's going to be great. Everybody was amazingly welcomed, and you start trying to speak a bit of Portuguese, and they'd have a bit of fun. And Josh and play around with it for a while. And in Sweden I try and speak Swedish, and people instantly answer you in English, which is really irritating. In Portugal they'll carry on up to the point where everybody's falling about laughing and they go, it's all right. I went to university in Birmingham. That's how we start talking English with you. But that was one of those nice bits. And then if you get the pronunciation right,
And of course, when Magellan came to King Manuel of Portugal and said, I'm going to reach the Indies, where all the spices come from. And they were, of course, making the wonders and riches of Portugal back then. I'm going to reach the Indies, as they would say back then, by sailing west. Don Manuel said, hold on.
Got to go through Spain.
By going west, that means that India is actually on the Spanish bit of the world. I would like to claim the Indies as ours, which, as a matter of fact, they are already, because we are now in Goa, and even we have a fortress in Malacca. So no way, I'm not going to finance that voyage of yours, which sounds crazy to me, So he lived most of his life in Portugal. At a certain moment, out of despair, he decided to go and sell his idea to the King of Spain. And of course, for the very same reason, the King of Spain said, yes, by all means, just go. So contrary to popular belief, he made the voyage, the journey. He sailed west not to prove that the Earth was not flat, but actually to reach the Spicy Islands by sailing west, which he managed to do. Now, imagine a man who was 148 centimeters tall, as the captain, the admiral captain of a fleet, where there were about 31 Portuguese with them, because all of the cartography and all of the sailing through the stars, only the Portuguese had that deep knowledge, okay? And by the way, all these cartographers and all of these people, astronomers, were born in Covilhã, which is the place where I was born. Yes, one of them was very famous. He was called Rui Faleiro. And he was the cartographer. You know, he was the guy who knew the way, how to get places. Okay. He did not get. He fell out with Fernando Magalhães, and he did not go with him, although he was supposed to. But he did not. But he still took the charts of Rui Faleiro with him. And so he went, and he was, of course, a Portuguese in charge of a Spanish flotilla. So, I mean, I cannot count the number of times that they tried to kill him, throw him overboard, and do unspeakable things to him. And through it all, he survived. And he actually managed to do quite unspeakable things to those who ever tried to, unseat him, as it were.
It was self-defense. It was self-defense. It's okay.
It was self-defense. So he got to of course, South America, navigated through what is today the Strait of Magellan, went to the coast of Chile, and then he did something extraordinary. He sailed west again. And he did 11,000 nautical miles. That's how long the crossing is between the coast of Chile and the Philippines. 99 days. 99 days through the Pacific Ocean, which was named by him, because when he got there from the Strait of Magellan, the sea was flat and beautiful and shining, and he called it O Mar Pacífico. And so it was Magellan who gave the Pacific its name. Okay.
Wow.
And those 99 days were the longest sea crossing ever endeavored by man. And he overcame it and went to the Philippines. He then, and I will make, I'll cut my story here. Once in the Philippines, he did something that he had never done so far. He decided to take sides in a local dispute, one king versus another. Okay. And there was a battle fought, and that battle was fought on shore. So he took some of his people with him on shore, and they were armored, of course, and with spears and the technology of the time. And he had won a few battles before, and when he was going to start battle with this king he was up against, the king said, well, give us time to pray, please, because now is not a good time to fight. Okay. And Magellan agreed, and the tide went out. And when the tide went out, the Spanish ships were, of course, taken away from shore, and the guns of the ships could not reach the beach anymore. And he was left to fight between the Filipinos and the sea in plated armor. So he died on that beach in the Philippines, and he never completed the voyage. Okay,
oh, my goodness.
Which is quite extraordinary. But he stayed in history. He's a hero. He's a man of extraordinary capacity, leadership, and an adventurer, and somebody who believed in himself. He fought against everyone, even his own king, and managed to prove his point. Only one of the 5 ships that sailed came back to Spain, Seville, 5 years later. It was in such bad shape that when it entered the Guadalquivir and started sailing up to Sevilla, not a single soul recognized that ship as being the admiral ship of Maganza. Still, it had enough spices on board to pay for the whole thing and still allow for the King of Spain to pay down his debt with the Dutch bankers that had financed the Kingdom of Spain for the last 3 years. Isn't that amazing? That is amazing. Well, so there you go. So that's my story for today.
So if it wasn't for a Portuguese guy, Spain would probably still be in debt. Even more debt.
Oh my God, no, I never thought of it in those terms,
Amazing. Okay, we're going to get into that, but there's a few things that I want to dig into from what you've just been speaking about. One, I wasn't sure if it was going to be appropriate to speak about the diamond bikini, but you brought it up. So where is the bikini, Fatima? Where is it at the moment?
The bikini is in Belgium because it has always been since the beginning a partnership with a Belgian company called SD Diamonds. Okay. And of course, it was sponsored by this SD Diamonds, but it was at the year 2000, and of course, we didn't have this online world that exists now at the time, and it was not so easy to be to get to the people around the world. But that fashion show was news all around the world, and it was very good for me, of course, but it was very good also for the SD Diamonds, who are my sponsors. They were my sponsors for many years, and it was fantastic for both. I always say that in life, it's very good when it's win-win, when both sides win. And it was not my first show in Paris. It was my third show in Paris. But, of course, it was a way to Portuguese that arrives in Paris and is not known, of course, after 1 year and a half. It was my beginning in Paris. And suddenly, the fashion designer is a model walking at the catwalk with the most expensive and the first diamonds bikini in the world. So this was new. And of course, it will be forever on my life because everybody remembers that. And I will never hide because it's part of me. It's part of my life. It's past already 20 years.
People listening need to Google the world's most expensive bikini, and then you'll see Fatima.
It is at the Guinness Book of the year 2000. That's my picture at the Guinness Book.
Oh yeah, there's my butterfly in my beard. Now, in this song, Butterfly in My Beard, in the last verse, I say, make a butterfly and fly with me. This is how you make a butterfly. And when I was doing this on the Roo and Who show, I had, like all the others, making butterflies. So, now we do the song. I also say, that's it. That's it, Dylan, you can make a butterfly. Okay. I had a butterfly in my beard, oh yeah. I had a butterfly in my beard, oh yeah. I had a butterfly in my beard. It looked pretty strange. It looked pretty weird. I had a butterfly in my beard, oh yeah. They called me the Bug Man on the news one time. They called me the Bug Man on the news one time. They called me the Bug Man on the news. A hissing cockroach on my head, it got plenty of views. They called me the Bug Man on the news one time. Now this is the butterfly making verse. Make a butterfly and fly with me. Say yeah. Come on, say yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
make a butterfly and fly with me. Say yeah.
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 Make a butterfly and fly with me. Go anywhere. Be really free. Make a butterfly and fly with me. Say yeah. Well, let's
Yeah.
do the last verse one more time. One more time. So I want to see the butterflies being made. Come on. Oh, make a butterfly and fly with me. Say yeah. Yeah. Make a butterfly and fly with me. Say yeah. Yeah. Make a butterfly and fly with me. Go anywhere and be really free. Make a butterfly and fly with me. Say yeah. Yeah.
And you know, it's interesting because you're talking about Portuguese DNA, but I've never felt very Portuguese. When I was growing up in Portugal, people would always tell me, like, it's like, oh, you're not Portuguese. You're not, you know, you sound foreign, you look foreign. Like, I go to the airport, people talk to me in English, you know, I look like a beef. So I've never felt, I've never felt that connected to the culture. But when I moved abroad, so an interesting thing happens, and I don't know, maybe you could testify to this as well, is you might not feel super connected to your country, but when you go to a new country, you don't know anything or you don't know anyone. So then all of a sudden your culture is like the one thing that you do have that you can grab onto. So that kind of becomes your identity a little bit. So you actually become more of your original nationality than you ever was because of that. So that's kind of what happened to me when I got to England. I was never like very Portuguese. I didn't care. And then I got to London. Became more Portuguese. I would go to the Portuguese restaurants. Whenever there was a football game going, I would go to the Portuguese neighborhood. And I'd kind of felt more in touch. And then there's that sort of thing, which is a very Portuguese mindset, which is we can talk shit about our country, but don't you dare talk shit about our country, right? So whenever that something would happen when I was like in England or whatever, people say Portugal, you know, so, you know, they're so poor or whatever. And I'd be like, hey, how dare you? Sure we are, but how dare you talk? Like, so then that pride started to come out and started to show itself in different ways. And actually it was really great to go through all of that because I realized, and it made me happy to actually be from Portugal and carry that flag. And now wherever I go in the world to perform, I'm always very happy to like carry that Portuguese flag.
I like one because it's so nonsense and tricky for the guy I found to, because there was a guy who he had his car on the internet. He was selling his car. And I rang him and said, I just want to tell you I'm not interested. He said, what? I'm not interested in your car. He said, okay. So can you tell me your name so I can write it down? When did we talk about it? I said, no, we never talked. He said, so if we never talked, why you want to say you're not interested in the car? I said, because maybe you put the ad and then you are at home waiting for someone to call you. So I saw the ad and I'm already calling you saying I'm not interested. And he said, but that's stupid. But if you're not interested, you're not supposed to call me. He said, yeah, but I was feeling bad because you could be at home waiting for me to call you saying that I'm interested, and I'm calling already saying I'm not interested. And it was like a twist in his mind. It was crazy. And then he started shout and saying bad words. There was most of the time people used to say that. I have a phone call that I've called to a neighbor saying, "Oh, did you change your internet password?" She said, no, why? Well, because I'm not getting it. I used to get it for 1 year and now I'm not getting it. Did you didn't pay, or what's happening? Can you see that? Can you reboot your router or whatever? And she started shouting, and well, it's a funny way to make comedy, because it's like going to a stage, going to a theater, but there's no script, and the other people don't know they are on a theater, on a play. And it's like I used to say, making a prank call is like hypnotize someone, because you have to bring the person, you have to convince that person that she's in that story, you have to bring her to your story, and then keep her hypnotized without waking her up. That's it, without waking her up. And you have to be like that in that hypnotize, because sometimes happen people saying, "Are you Nilton? Because this seems like a Nilton phone call." And I say, no, I'm not Nilton. Okay, carry on. And then people won't carry on. Well, that's that point where they are almost waking up, but they keep sleeping and they keep hypnotized in my story.
So thank you once again to all our guests, and thank you to all of you for listening. Please subscribe, share with your friends, give us a thumbs up, and please leave a comment or a review. We'd love to hear from you. We'll be back next week with Season 2 of Portugal, The Simple Life.